My cheating wife keeps piling on demands, blaming me for her sleeping with other men. Just recently, I, 30, married my wife, 30. We spent 6 years together before making it official, with 3 of those years engaged. Thanks to COVID, we had to push back the wedding twice. She's wrestled with mental health challenges like depression, ADHD, and anxiety all along. As time passed, especially during the pandemic, it feels like these struggles have only deepened. The lockdowns hit her hard, particularly the isolation and the stress from a family health scare. During that time, she lost her job, but luckily found a new one not long after. However, it was remote, with some pretty unpredictable hours. I always did my best to support her. She told me that I was the only person who made her feel capable of becoming the person she wanted to be. However, I guess that feeling faded at some point. A few months after our wedding, she caught COVID and experienced lingering symptoms for a while. It was tough on her both mentally and physically. Just when she was mostly recovered after several months, she caught COVID again, and the long-haul symptoms came back. This time, we knew better how to handle it, so her recovery was a bit quicker. But the stress still took a heavy toll. After the second bout of COVID, we became much more cautious, masking up more frequently. We only dined indoors on special occasions and wore masks in bars. We even braved the cold to sit outside at places that still offered outdoor seating. Even with all the precautions we took, she fell into a deeper depression than I'd ever witnessed and decided to take a break from work. During that period, I stepped up to care for her, managed all the chores, and kept up with my full-time job. While she was on leave, she started showing some improvement. She tried various activities like taking classes, but the only thing she stuck with consistently was yoga. Her sleep schedule was all over the place due to the depression, so she struggled to fall asleep at a reasonable hour, often staying up late, napping during the day, and continuing this cycle. This led her to attend late yoga classes, which would give her energy afterward. She'd tell me she was going to meet up with friends from class at a bar, or that she planned to draw at a bar alone to think things over, or that she needed to reflect on therapy. Usually, she'd say she intended to stay out for an hour or two and then come home, but she'd end up saying just a couple more hours to think and stay out until the bars closed, sometimes coming home drunk. During her recovery from depression and long COVID, I felt this was an unhealthy way to cope, and it worsened her sleep even more. It caused her to sleep through the day, missing out on vitamin D, and sleep quality is so crucial for mental health. I voiced my concerns, but she's always been defensive about my feedback. I've journaled about it many times and brought it up with her, even suggested she discuss it with her therapist. However, in our couples therapy sessions, we never really addressed my issues with her communication. We mainly focused on strategies to prevent me from triggering her past trauma and how we could both de-escalate conflicts, which were valuable lessons, of course. But I guess this time it was just too much for her. When she went out, other guys would approach her. Eventually, one of them wore down her defenses and she ended up making out with him. She gave him her alternate email and they started meeting up for more makeout sessions, which eventually led to sex. There were also 2 other people she connected with, telling them she only wanted something purely physical. She claims she never had actual sex with them, though just sent dirty texts and masturbated to their messages. I found out about all this one day when I picked up her phone to charge it while she was napping. We have each other's Face ID and thumbprints, and when you start charging, the screen lights up and shows past notifications. I saw a strange text, so I opened her phone to check it out. I didn't think much of it at first, no suspicions at all, until I realized what I was actually reading. My curiosity led me down a rabbit hole because I thought we were always so open with each other. I was devastated, but I also noticed emails from this guy sent to her alternate email account, which she doesn't keep open by default. I forwarded those emails to myself so she couldn't deny anything later. When she woke up from her nap, we talked and cried together. I was completely shattered and numb, but her remorse seemed genuine. She told me she was desperate to feel wanted, young, and alive again. She said she never wanted to be with anyone else and admitted she was mentally messed up, apologizing for destroying our marriage. I still wanted to work on things, her mental health, our relationship, and I told her I was willing to stay with her. The next day was tough, but somehow we managed to get through it. Then she had a therapy session. Afterward, we talked about it. Her therapist seemed to suggest that she had never done this before, so it wasn't who she really is. She felt trapped and craved attention. The leave from work and the freedom was helping her mental health, which was true. The way I discovered her actions was a violation of her privacy. During this conversation, she became defensive, almost blaming me for what she did. I wasn't happy with what seemed like a lack of guilt on her part. Over the next few days, she started to take responsibility, and I began to hope we could grow from this. But then, just 5 days after I found out, she told me she wanted to think about what to do with her job after an afternoon yoga class. Afterward, she kept delaying when she'd come home. I told her to take her time, but eventually she promised to be home by 2. I reminded her that she couldn't repeat the same behavior that led to the cheating so soon after it happened. How could she expect me to trust her? I tracked her location through her phone and went to the bar she was at. I reiterated my feelings in person. She insisted she was staying until 2, and that was that. I left, and she did come home later. I don't think she cheated again, but the situation left me uneasy. The day after our couples therapy session, she had a follow-up appointment with her own therapist just a few hours later. Ever since then, it feels like she's almost disappeared from my life. She gives me these loose, vague plans, saying she's grabbing dinner with a friend, but nothing more specific than that. She claims she needs space. She's been coming home late, passing out on the couch until I wake up, then slipping into our bed just before it's time for her to head out again. From what we've discussed in therapy, I've got this strong feeling she's about to ask me to make changes so she doesn't feel trapped. And honestly, the last thing I want is for her to feel that way. I just want her to be healthy, to find healthier ways to cope, and to genuinely want to be with me. She still texts me, "I love you," but she hasn't said those words aloud in a week. I'm terrified she's planning to separate more completely. And it's not just me I'm worried about. I'm scared for her too. She's had suicidal thoughts before, and all I want is for her to be okay. I can't shake the feeling that she's projecting her parents' relationship onto ours. And now anything I do is going to seem controlling or irritating to her. I have this suspicion that her therapist is hearing this skewed version of events and might be pushing for a separation. And honestly, based on what the therapist has heard, I can't say they're wrong. But it feels like my wife is being selective about what she shares. Like, she didn't mention the cheating to her therapist for the entire 2 months it was happening. I doubt she's talked about how often she's been out drinking alone either. I'm really anxious about our next couples therapy session because I can't shake the feeling she's going to drop the bomb that she's moving out. If I try to resist, I'm pretty sure I'll be called controlling again. It's hard to wrap my head around the fact that we've ended up here. The therapist once told me, just because she feels trapped doesn't mean you're the one trapping her. But now I'm worried that my wife, who's often felt overshadowed when we talk, is choosing this moment to stand her ground. It feels like the worst possible timing, but I don't want to lose her and have to rebuild my life from scratch. At the same time, I'm afraid that if I just go along with it, she'll think she's right about me wanting to control her, which would just lead to a life of resentment on her end. I know I'm not blameless. We were in therapy before any of this happened for a reason. I can be argumentative, and she's triggered by confrontation because of her past trauma. We've worked hard on it, and I've made progress, but I'm not perfect. More than anything, I want her to be happy and healthy, and I thought she knew that. So how can she believe I'm trying to control her when I'm really just concerned that she's coping in unhealthy ways? I don't know how I'm coming across as I write this, but I'm feeling pretty numb right now. I can't stress enough how much I try to understand her in every conversation, even if she thinks I'm just trying to win, or if things get heated because of my tone or her triggers. It's the main thing we've worked on, and it kills me that she truly believes I want to control her when all I'm suggesting is something as simple as being home by midnight on weekdays and getting enough sleep to protect her mental health. Now on to the next story. Revealing my unfaithful wife's betrayal to our entire family at her 50th birthday bash. So I've got something I need to unload. Found out my wife, let's call her Lisa, had been sneaking around, having an affair. And let me tell you, the emotions that hit me were like a whirlwind, spinning out of control, pushing me to make a decision that altered the course of our lives forever. It all kicked off when I stumbled upon some incriminating stuff on Lisa's phone. We're talking texts, explicit photos, and videos exchanged with another guy. It felt like a sucker punch straight to the gut. All the trust we'd built over the years, gone. just like that, crushed in an instant. Anger, hurt, betrayal, every possible emotion flooding in all at once. I couldn't just sit on this. I couldn't let her get away with it. I needed Lisa to feel the pain she'd inflicted on me, on our family, and what better opportunity than her 50th birthday bash? A gathering of all our friends and family. Yeah, I know, it sounds extreme, but I was riding a wave of anger and desperation. In the days leading up to the party, I meticulously crafted a PowerPoint presentation. Not your usual office stuff. This one was designed to blow the lid off Lisa's affair. But as I worked on it, I started to rethink my approach. Maybe I shouldn't just hit them with the dirty laundry. Maybe I should remind everyone of the good times, the beautiful moments we'd shared over the years. So, at the party, I stood up, took a deep breath, and started my speech. I talked about how Lisa and I first met, our wedding day, the birth of our daughter, all those countless happy memories. I wanted everyone to remember the love that was once there. But then, just when the room was warm with nostalgia, I hit him with the PowerPoint. The screen changed, and suddenly the dirty truth was out there for everyone to see. The conversations between Lisa and her lover all laid bare. The shock on their faces was something I'll never forget. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more intense, I had one more surprise. I'd swapped out Lisa's original birthday cake for one that had explicit images of her and her lover on it. As the cake was brought out, I encouraged everyone to sing "Happy Birthday" to Lisa, who by now was completely distraught. It was a moment no one saw coming, and it hit like a freight train. To seal the deal, I handed Lisa divorce papers right there in front of everyone. The room fell silent, and tears streamed down her face. It was devastating for her, but I felt, well, I don't even know what I felt at that moment. After the dust settled, Lisa's family, her parents included, blasted me for what I'd done. They said I'd gone too far, that I'd humiliated her in public, and it was just cruel. But to my relief, my own family, including our daughter, stood by me. They got it. They understood the hell I'd been through and thought my actions were justified, even if they were extreme. Looking back, I do wonder if there was a better way to handle it. Maybe counseling, maybe a private conversation, something less explosive. But in that moment, I was driven to expose the truth in the most dramatic way possible. I'm not sharing this to encourage anyone to do what I did. No, this is more of a cautionary tale. Infidelity messes with your head, makes you do things you never thought you would. It's important to seek support, talk things through, and think long and hard about the consequences before making any decisions that could blow up your life and the lives of those around you. Okay, let me clarify a few things I didn't mention before. My ex-wife Lisa didn't fight the divorce. She owned up to the affair and surprisingly said my demanding work schedule pushed her into the arms of another man. She said this guy made her feel young, desirable, filled a void she believed I couldn't. And my daughter, man, she knew something was off but didn't know what. Lisa manipulated the situation, fed her lies to keep the secret under wraps. It tears me apart knowing my daughter had to deal with that kind of confusion and emotional turmoil. And that affair partner? Turns out he used to work for me before the pandemic. I had to let him go because of financial issues, never imagining he'd weasel his way back into my life, this time to destroy my marriage. After the birthday party debacle, my former in-laws threatened to take legal action, thinking I'd gone way over the line. But Lisa talked them down, admitting she deserved the fallout from her actions. At least she took responsibility for that. Since the divorce, Lisa's been filled with regret. She's finally realized just how much damage she caused, not just to me, but to our whole family. While I appreciate the apology, the trust we once had is gone, shattered beyond repair. On a personal note, I've been trying to embrace single life, rediscover who I am outside of a broken marriage. It's been tough and I've had some pretty dark thoughts, but my love for my daughter keeps me grounded, gives me a reason to push through. I could never put her through the pain of losing a parent. And to anyone out there doubting my story, thinking it's all fake or exaggerated, here's my response. Kiss my ass. This is my life, my pain, my journey. I'm sharing it to find support and connect with others who might be going through something similar. If you don't believe it, that's on you. But don't diminish what I've been through. Life throws some brutal punches. but it's our resilience and the support of others that help us make it through the darkest moments.